Do you have constitutional questions? Get constitutional answers. We'll be answering your constitutional questions live, so get ready to call in now. Are you a prosecutor, law enforcement officer, or local government employee? Want to make sure you are executing the laws in a constitutional manner? Are you a city council member, township board member, or state legislator? Want to ensure the laws you pass are constitutional? Perhaps you're a citizen who wants to know the proper limits on government and the protections for your God-given liberties. Regardless of your role, call me, Constitutional Attorney Catherine Henry, with your constitutional questions during our live call-in show now at the phone number listed on the screen. And remember, together we can restore freedom.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Constitutional Attorney Catherine Henry, and this is Restore Freedom Weekly. We have an open forum, so to speak, for your legal and constitutional questions. So welcome, and thank you for joining us today. I'm probably going to do quite a bit shorter of a show than I have been doing. I don't really have a goal in mind most days. It's, whenever it seems like the questions have come to an end, that's when we kind of call it quits for the day, or when we're just done discussing a certain topic. But today I have a special visitor, a kid who used to live with us for a while, not one of my own children per se, but someone I consider one of my children. And she is here for a short visit. So we're excited to spend the day with her. Unfortunately, it lined up with a Restore Freedom Tuesday. So anyway, will probably be quite a shorter show than at least last week, which was, verging on 2 hours. So anyway, so make sure if you have questions today that you go ahead and call in and get those questions asked at the beginning so we can get to them and get them answered before we go ahead and end for the day. With that being said, I'll go ahead and throw that phone number on the screen. If you have any questions, please feel free to call 616-303-0033. 0093. If you call the office phone, which is 0033, that's going to ring in a different room and I'm not going to hear it, so don't call that one. But call 616-303-0093, and that number will get you through to our live stream today. So, welcome to Blue Line Transparency and Jay Curvitt, Chris Mike, Amy. Welcome to the rest of you as you join in. So I wanted to quickly touch base on a couple of things that are happening. Man, there's just so much happening in our world. And when we saw Biden in office for 4 years and all the crazy crap that was happening, quite frankly, at all levels of government, but certainly in the federal government during those 4 years, it just seemed like it was overwhelming and it was never ending. But I'll tell you what, I'm actually more overwhelmed now during the Trump administration, this second Trump administration, than I was, during his first administration, or even during the Biden administration. And here's why. For the most part, what Trump is doing, and please feel free to call in and interrupt me as I start talking about these topics, but until we get somebody calling in, this is just some current event stuff that I wanted to touch base on. So, yes, it's like being in a blizzard of information and corruption, Amy said. Absolutely, that is exactly what it feels like, a blizzard of information and corruption. And for those of you from Florida or other southern states that have no idea what it's like to, say, drive in a blizzard, it's awful. You can't see, it's overwhelming. I mean, you literally can't see one car length ahead of you in a blizzard. And sometimes, it kind of catches up, like you're driving along, it's normal snow, and then all of a sudden blizzard conditions, right? So it's you get caught in it and you don't even see it coming a lot of times. So what I found, what I find really, I don't know, it's just so overwhelming is that I'll back up and say I don't agree with every single thing the Trump administration is doing, like trying to end birthright citizenship. That's not actually a prerogative of the executive branch. But if that's not me naysaying Trump, I get where he's coming from. I get what he's trying to do. He's trying to do the right thing, but that particular thing he just can't legally, constitutionally do. However, I say that to say, I don't agree with everything he's doing, but by and large, he is doing quite a few things that are very good. Now, as far as like the tariffs and things, I'm not sure, that he's doing the right thing on that. Now, I will say that the initial, say, 30 days of the tariffs on Canada and Mexico did get significant action at the border by both governments in trying to put real forces towards the illegal border crossings and reducing the amount of drugs and guns and human trafficking that's coming across the border and all kinds of things. So, that the initial, purpose for which it was instituted, those tariffs, they did a great job. We're continuing to see a lot more tariffs though, and I'm not sure that they have they're really giving the intended result, right? So again, that's not me saying, oh, Trump's a horrible president, he doesn't know what he's doing, and I think he's trying his best. We'll see how those play out. I'm not really talking about those because quite frankly, there's not a whole lot of legal challenges to those. What I'm concerned about, what I've been personally feeling extremely overwhelmed about, are the levels of legal challenges to the executive orders that he's doing, to the actions of the Department of Government Efficiency and Elon Musk's team, to the Doge counterparts within the House and the Senate. So in Congress, they have their own subcommittees that are, focusing on government efficiencies and ways to weed out corruption and waste and things like that. And so, you have some serious work being done. And yet you have these rogue judges that are stopping the executive branch from doing things that are within the purview of the executive branch. That is the judicial branch not respecting the separation of powers. That is the judicial branch not recognizing that it is a non-justiciable issue, that they should not be touching it with a 10-foot pole. And yet, when you have the reaction of Musk or Trump saying things like, judges should be impeached when they're not following the Constitution, then all of a sudden you have all these liberals screaming, he's horrible, he's not respecting the separation of powers. Whoa, know your role. Okay, know your role. And that is not at all what's happening. He's the one saying that they are not respecting the separation of powers, which they are not. Okay? And when you have, let me back up and say what really, I think the cherry on top of this whole thing, or better yet, the straw that broke the camel's back for me in feeling overwhelmed with all this, is getting an email. I couldn't even muster my way through, like, really reading it with a fine-tooth comb because it was so enraging. But I probably need to be able to calm my mind, read through it, and do a reaction video. But it is from the State Bar of Michigan, of which I am a forced member just to be a licensed attorney in the state of Michigan. I will say that not every state does that. When I started out as an attorney, I was in the state of Minnesota. And at least then, Minnesota has a bar association that is not a requirement. So once I was a member for like the first year because it was a free membership. And I'm like, hey, I'll utilize whatever free memberships I have. Okay, great. Once that free year was done, then I I quit the bar. I had nothing to do with the bar association. I was a licensed member I was a licensed attorney in the state of Minnesota, but I was not a member of the Minnesota Bar Association. Now, in Michigan, the State Bar of Michigan it's all in one with being a licensed attorney. It is the state bar that essentially runs that administrative arm of the judicial system. And so I am forced to be a member of the State Bar of Michigan. And it is a liberal entity that is out of control. And I am disgusted. I am disgusted by the email that I received where they have put together this reaction. And I wasn't actually planning on talking about this. So, but I'm going to pull it up because I'm going to pull together. Where is it? I'm going to pull up the email. There we go. It is called statement. This is just the subject line. Statement from SBM, State Bar of Michigan, leadership on unprecedented threats to rule of law. They don't know the first thing about the rule of law because the rule of law starts with following the Constitution. Our U.S. Constitution first, and in the state of Michigan, the state Constitution. And the State Bar of Michigan consistently supports all three branches of government taking steps that completely go far beyond the bounds of what government is supposed to do and violating our rights left and right. They have no concept of what the rule of law is. And so the fact that they put that in the subject line of this email, I knew exactly what this was about. So you read on, and the whole thing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 paragraphs is all about how the Trump administration is doing wrong. And, they are implying that, judges shouldn't be, whatever. I'm going to pause because I'm going to get too fired up. Good afternoon. This is Catherine. Who am I speaking with today?
Oh, Frank from Texas.
How the Trump administration. Oh, I hear myself in the background. Are you able to mute that?
I turned it down.
Okay, sounds great. I really hate listening to myself speak.
I know, I do too. I can't stand my own photo either.
Right, exactly. So what are you calling about today?
I'm challenging some missteps in Texas. They have a right of locomotion up until 95. For only commercial traffic was privileged, and normal, like people using the public road, was a right. Okay, so then they changed the transportation code without changing the Constitution, which would require an amendment to the Constitution, removing the right of locomotion. And in Texas, this is. So I don't have plates on my car, and I don't have a license, and I don't have a title. I have a receipt for my car, and I've challenged them on the road. Not in traffic, of course, because that's dangerous. But like in parking lots or like 7-Eleven or whatever, they roll up on me and I tell them I'm exercising my right of locomotion. Of course, they don't have any prima facie. They don't have any evidence that I'm in a motor vehicle. They don't have any interest in my car. They don't have any charges they can bring in. They don't have a license, so they don't have any way to grip me and bring me into court. So they basically get educated, and then I'm on my way, usually right behind them. And I go home and stuff, whatever. But I know that I don't have the money to go to federal court on this. like 20 grand or something if I get standing. Of course, I don't have any standing, so I can't really bring a case. But I talk on Rule of Law Radio, and I would invite you to call in on to Randy Kelton and Brett Stevens, who've been doing this stuff for like the constitutional stuff that you're doing for like 35 years in Texas, and they're pretty successful at it. And I'm sure they would like your input into the way that their bureaucracies circumvent the Constitution by intimidation and lawfare and all kinds of other stuff. I've never had an accident. I've never had a speeding ticket. I've never had a ticket at all. I'm not in this to commit a crime or anything like that in any shape or form. I'm 62 years old, and I've been a law-abiding citizen, but I understand that the right of locomotion is so important to be able to go to the store, to be able to go to the church, to be able to go to your grandma's house freely without paying a tax or some troll, you know.
Well, if there's
When you're
something
not.
you're saying that's in the Texas Constitution, I haven't memorized all 50 state constitutions. And certainly there's some states that offer a little bit more specific protections than others. So we don't have something specific like that in the U.S. Constitution. And, so I haven't actually heard of that. And I'd be
Well, the right of
curious.
locomotion is the right of movement.
Well, but again, I mean, you're telling me that, but where do you get that from? I mean, is it defined in
I
your
think
state constitution?
I think it's in the it's not codified in the Constitution, but it was so basic that they didn't even bother. I mean, the right to move is how we exercise our rights. We have to go to vote. We have to move.
Right.
So they've taken the uh, the negligence of the founders to codify that to destroy all the rest of our rights. I mean, for instance, if you want to exercise any of your rights, you have to move, and you have to have the right to move. You can't be taxed to the hilt. Right now, if a court wanted to charge you $1 million for a speeding ticket, you would have to go through all of that pain to fight that, because of course you wouldn't pay it, and you would end up selling your house for a lawyer and all that stuff. Whether you win or lose, you're going to lose. So they keep it. It's kind of like they keep it to where they can take the fat off of you, take your lunch money or whatever, and let you go. And this is their racket. They don't
Well,
make it so steep to where they kill you,
what's
but they
interesting
could.
what's interesting though is that this specific right now, I agree that the right to move freely is something that we I would say it's covered under the Ninth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, and probably the 14th Amendment, but certainly the Ninth Amendment, unenumerated rights. There's just things that are so basic and so inherent in being a part of a society that it's like the right to breathe fresh air, the right to not have to wear, PPE when walking around in public, when you don't work in the medical environment, things like that.
Right.
So I would say, I agree with that in that regard. But as far as bringing a case like that to federal court, generally speaking, just as a practical matter, you're not going to be able to bring a case like that to federal court and be successful, even if you had $20,000, right? Even if you were just going to do it yourself. Because you're
Well,
talking about a right that is specifically it's special to the state of Texas. And it's a Texas law that you're talking about or it's actually a series of Texas laws that are violating that constitutional, that Texas Constitution provision. And so it's really something that is entirely within the purview of Texas. So it would be the Texas Supreme Court or whatever the highest court is in Texas.
Right.
That would have
And
to decide on that matter.
It's been successfully kicked back to the uh, lower courts, which refused to rule on it because of the racket. You see, they're making so much money off of it that they don't want to rule on it, though. So they kick it to the next judge and the next judge and the next judge. And this is how they've been operating, because they've lost in the Supreme, told to rectify it, and then they don't do that. They just don't. They just leave it up in the air.
Yeah.
And this is the experience of Eddie Craig, for instance, who was an ex-sheriff for Nacogdoches County. He didn't register his cars, and he didn't have a driver's license, and he went around and got his standing, and then he had his case kicked back to the original courts, and they didn't rule on it. They just refused to. And this is how they've been operating.
Right. And I'm not saying that, I'm just talking about practically speaking where we're at. I don't see a successful way to challenge something like that in federal court, regardless of standing. That's a totally different issue, which I think is in 95% of cases, I think it's BS, because they use it as, the judicial system uses it as a way to stop people from protecting their rights.
Right.
But in some cases it is appropriate, right? Because there needs to be some sort of standing in, let's say, there's your neighbor has died, and he, his kids are handling his affairs. He left behind a wife, and then he had kids from a previous marriage and whatever. And so they're handling his affairs, and you decide you don't like how it's going down. So you try to file some sort of case in court. Well, yeah, the court should tell you don't have standing, because it's none of your damn business what's going on in that in that family situation, right?
Right.
But that's not how the vast majority of denial of standing is used by courts. It's used like in bringing lawsuits against government officials for, what was happening during COVID and the shutdowns, and saying things like, well, you're not harmed any differently than, the other 10 million people in Michigan, for example. And so therefore you don't have standing. Well, no, that's not at all what standing should be about. So at any rate, I'm not talking about standing though. I'm just talking about the concept of what is the federal, in order to be in federal court, there has to be a federal, a federal concept, a federal law, a federal.
Okay, yeah, the concept is Title 18 definitions page. Go down to motor vehicle. It says, the normal thing, and then it says at the end of that it says for use for commercial purposes. And then it goes down, go see commercial purposes.
Okay, but you're mixing up two different things. You're mixing up you're mixing up two different things. So you're talking about the issue that you're having is with state laws, right? And I'm, whether it's being requiring registration and licensing. Well, hold on. With requiring, registration or licensing or whatever, all those things are, right? Those are state laws. And then the issue that you're saying it's violating is a provision of the state constitution, which I'm just going to assume what you're saying is true. I mean, I have no reason to not believe you on that, but I don't have it in front of me. Right, but hold on. So you're talking about something that's a right that's enshrined or protected specially by the state constitution. You can't then go and look to federal law to grab a definition for what that state constitution means, unless there's some sort of way that it gets there. So for example,
so I'm trying to get there.
Well, okay, but there's not, It sounds like a rabbit hole. I don't know that I have the time to do in today's show.
Well, I know. I just want you to say the Texas Constitution, of course, is special. It says that all the rights listed will remain inviolate forever. Now, there's no other constitution that says that. They say, well, we can amend this or amend that. They can't amend something if they say right in the preamble that all the rights will be guaranteed inviolate forever.
Well, except for, yeah, well, yes and no, because the Constitution is a contract that the people made essentially with each other in order to come together to have that state government. And so if the
Right. So
people
they need an amendment. They didn't do that.
if the people want to amend it in some way, each state has a way to do it. It's just different in each state. So,
But they
and
didn't do it.
didn't do
They
what
did,
though?
they didn't amend the Constitution to take away the rights of locomotion.
Right. Okay. But you were just saying that they can't take away any of the rights in there or change any of
Well,
the
they
rights.
can if they use the process, but they didn't
Right.
use it.
Exactly. So again, though, it's just not a federal case issue. Now, what you were talking about as far as how the state courts haven't done their job, I don't disagree with you there. I mean, I don't know of the specific cases you're talking about, but by and large, most courts at all levels, in all states and all jurisdictions, they get it wrong a lot of the time because they don't understand the constitutional basics. And they think that, government essentially gives us our rights and we have to ask for permission every time we want to do anything. And that's not at all how it works. They have to essentially get their permission to act from us via the Constitution or a constitutionally enacted statute. So at any rate, my point is just you within the parameters of that specific thing and what you're going for and how it's unique to Texas, you're going to have to stick with the state courts. I wouldn't go to federal courts because federal courts, unless it's paired with other, specific rights being denied or something of that nature, it doesn't belong in federal court. And quite frankly, we don't want it to, because if you think about it, why would we want anyone at the federal level who doesn't know anything about Texas, who doesn't know anything about how the people of Texas want things to operate? They're so far removed. We don't want them making decisions. I would much rather have a state judge making decisions on state constitutional issues because they are more accountable to the people than some distant federal court judge.
That's right. We're getting a lot of infiltrators down here with the communists sympathizing and all that, like you're experiencing, with going against the Constitution and voting in a bureaucratic sense. Instead of democracy, we got bureaucracy, right? It's just all this confusing rhetoric that they take up all your time and money, and it just doesn't get to the point. They just keep going around in circles. I've been I'm not angry or anything like that. I'm basically looking for how to head them off at the pass before they finalize everything. And I know
I'm
I know about voting.
I'm going to pause with on 1 second for a second because I'm trying to make sure that people are who are watching and in the live chat, they're actively talking about this topic along with us, with each other.
Okay.
And it looks like some came late to the party. I'm going to specifically call out somebody who I know personally is commenting in here because he said,
Can you take a note? Can you take a note?
1 second. 1 second. He said, we seem to forget the 9th Amendment in these discussions. Dude, you were late to the party because I already brought up the 9th Amendment. But I don't have enough time today to repeat what I was going with that there. But as far as being, for practical purposes, I just want everybody to hear this. I think the 9th Amendment is essential and it does cover quite a bit of things, as I mentioned when I brought it up earlier. However, practically speaking, it's just not as successful by itself because you're trying to convince the judges of something that's covered without being able to it's too abstract for them to think about. And when their minds are not set right with understanding our rights come from God and not the government, and they think our rights come from the government and we have to get permission before we do anything, they're just coming all together from a wrong mindset. So the Ninth Amendment is practically meaningless to them, and we have to change our whole. We have a lot of work to do before we can really be successful under the Ninth Amendment alone, even though it does literally legally cover these kinds of situations. It's just, as a practical matter, not going to be very successful for quite some time. But anyway, I want to, what is the, if there's one aspect of this, one question that you have that I could kind of steer you in a certain direction today, what would that be?
I don't want to end anybody's career, and the police are pretty nice down here, but some of the judges are kind of rogue, and judicial conduct complaints and stuff like that seem to work. And I haven't had my rights violated at pretty much never, but I know what they're up to, and I'm trying to head them off at the pass. So I don't know if I should go educate people, like the police or whatever, talk to them, get them to call into the show. If you would call into the show, it's 512-646-1984 at ruleoflawradio.com. And the time is Thursday, 2-hour show, and Friday, 4-hour show. And if you would just call in and see what you can, how you can support them in any way possible, or just make friends or whatever, on this issue, right of locomotion. And that's basically the biggest right that we could be stripped of, because if we can't move around and they can raise the fines of traffic infractions up to the sky and we can't pay them, we're stuck. We're in jail, basically. They're just stopping our movements.
Yeah, there's a lot of issues, a lot of legal things regarding that, but it is specific to Texas that we're talking about, because things are, we don't have the specific protections that you do there in Florida or Michigan or, Minnesota or other states that I'm,
I understand that,
with.
yeah.
So, I need to try to check on some of the other questions in the time
Okay,
remaining
thank
that
you.
we have. But I did write some of that stuff down. Oops, I'm throwing my pen on myself. I will definitely touch a little bit more on that, and certainly call in other weeks. I don't know if you heard at the beginning, but today I'm just trying to do a little bit shorter, a much shorter show than I normally do, just because of circumstances of someone special coming to visit our family today. So,
well, thank you.
But
thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's touch base on this topic and flesh it out. And I will try to remember to take a look at the Texas Constitution. In fact, I'll make myself a note. We'll see if I remember to plug that into my calendar of stuff to do. But and this week, I will say
you can get a lead on what I'm talking about from the show. If you call into the show, talk to Randy or Brett.
Well, right now, my plate is full. Like, I'm getting on a bus tomorrow morning, and I'm going to Tallahassee. I keep calling it Lansing because I'm so used to going to the Lansing capital, Michigan. But I'm going to Tallahassee tomorrow to speak with legislators on a whole bunch of health freedom bills and doing a whole bunch of stuff. I got some other stuff, actually a case out of Texas, Arizona. I don't remember now. Anyway, with a good friend of mine, Foshin. This is a public service, is his channel, and we might be doing a joint live on Thursday about that. And there's just a lot of things, going, and I'm still trying to take things easy coming back from all my cancer surgeries and stuff. So, but I have my notes. So if you don't hear me touch base and talk about it in the next show, don't hesitate to bring it up and remind me, and I will. It is an important topic that we can start to, cover a little bit more.
You have an email anyway, right?
Yes, the
on
main
your website?
email, yep, it's on the website, but contact at restorefreedomkh.com. The website is restorefreedomkh.com. So it's just contact at in front of that. So,
Well, all my love to you, dear.
all right. Well, thank you so much and thanks for calling in. Have a great day.
Bye bye.
All right, guys. So what I want to do is, first of all, I was talking about a bunch of stuff. We had some questions that I'm gonna have to scroll way up and hopefully I'll be able to see them. I do want to wrap up somewhat here. And I need to, let me see here. Okay. Oh, hold on a second. I want to change this a little bit. Nope. Oh, we're gonna have, okay, hold on a second. Um, Hello, this is Catherine. Who am I speaking with?
Hi, Catherine.
Hi, who am I speaking with?
JC.
Okay.
We talked last week, no, 2 weeks ago, about the zoning hearing board
And
that I was a member of, and I wanted to give you an update.
okay, and remind me, what state was this in?
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania. Okay, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I'm ready to move back to Florida.
Well, give us that update.
Well, it was a mess. Yeah, I have never seen, and I'm still disturbed by it, so many people that brought up stuff not knowing who was going to move into the home, that they would be a killer. People bringing up, oh, I got a mother, and I'm afraid, and they wanted to put a 6-foot fence around the property where nobody else has to. And I'm the only one that voted yes for the group home. And the other guys that I was with didn't even pay attention. Didn't even pay attention to what was going on. They seemed to have their mind made up before they was even there. It wasn't very open. It wasn't, we had council members that came that didn't want this person to move in. Don't know if it was a man or a woman who was going to move in. The whole thing was wrong. People, as you said earlier to this gentleman you were talking to, that people don't know the law. I found a court case, a settlement with HUD, with the Department of Justice, on the Fair Housing Act. And I spoke on that we cannot expect one person to live a certain way and we all get our freedoms to live a certain way. I couldn't get it through to the people, and tried to make them understand when I spoke to them.
Right.
So, and I'm still disturbed about it. I can't believe the community that I live in, that the discrimination against disabled people or handicapped people is really bad.
Yeah. I hope that the person that was trying to put the group home in, I hope they connect with somebody that runs, the office for the ADA, discrimination issues. It might be the DOJ, it might be DHHS. I'm not sure. There's the Office of Civil Rights. They would be really good ones to touch base with. But there's got to be state state level people and advocates as well. I mean, just those who generally advocate for disabled individuals. But there's going to be groups that deal with specifically just fair housing issues for anybody, discrimination for against any kind of individual in fair housing issues. So, I hope that they reach out and connect with those people, and you might want to talk with them about, suggesting that they connect with some of those organizations, because it's really disturbing. I will say the fact that you said that you're still, I forgot your exact wording, but basically you're still really bothered and upset by it. I'm going to say good, because that gives me hope. When we have even just one person on any given board or, council or, commission or anything like that, serving in government, at least one who is trying to do the right thing and who is bothered when the government is doing the wrong thing and rights are being trampled. That's what it takes. It takes people like you, one at a time, to collect and begin to grow in numbers and be a voice for change. And sometimes it's lonely and you're doing it on your own. I've been there. I've definitely been the lone voice of reason on various boards and, governmental, functions like that. And it's frustrating and it's hard and, but thank you. Thank you to people like you that are trying to do that. If you do give up on Pennsylvania and you come down to Florida, come down to Volusia County, because we need more freedom fighters, because I'm exhausted doing this.
Okay.
So come to Volusia County, because I definitely could use some more backup here. But and I appreciate the update. I'm going to try to touch on some of these other questions and things that people have. I hope that, if something else develops in this and you have questions or whatever, please by all means continue to keep us in the loop and call in and ask those questions. Was there anything else that I missed before I let you go today, or was that basically the...
Well, I am a disabled veteran. And I am really in with, knowledgeable about the American Disabilities Act, because this community hasn't done anything in 30 years under it. And I have filed with the Department of Justice and have won several issues with them. I'm going to continue, especially with this. Like I wanted a handicap parking space and they wouldn't give me a handicap parking space.
Right.
So I could, park. I can't, I use a wheelchair. I can't get in the doors.
Right.
To go to a council meeting.
Oh.
So,
yeah,
there's still a lot that's going on. It's just that I have to work on educating people
yes.
in this community.
Absolutely.
About this stuff. So thank you for your time.
Yes,
I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for calling in and have a great day.
You as well. Bye.
All right. I'm wondering if perhaps one of our commenters, I don't know if you're still on there, because the question that I scrolled back to try to catch some of the questions that were asked initially, and there was a question asked by somebody, blue line transparency. So let me scroll here to see, was that the first? That wasn't even the first question. So I guess I'm going to pause. Blue line transparency, if you're still on, let me know and I'll be able to see it on the other side of my screen before I jump back to some of your questions, because you might be the subject of the joint live I'm doing on Thursday. Given the questions that you had for me, I have a feeling that's who you are. But anyway, so Amy asked, Tampa has declined DOJ audit after being called out on taxpayer money going to NGOs without any accountability by the commissioners. 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats voted no to the audit. Okay, well, that's not really a question. I'm not sure what the question is. That sounds horrible. All I'm going to say on that is I didn't move to Tampa when I moved down here because that is super liberal sector and they don't understand the Constitution. I'm pretty sure they don't know how to spell it over there. So if there's a specific question you have relating to that situation, I'd be happy to answer that. Okay, so you're still there. Okay, so can you tell me, Blue Line Transparency? I can't see, like, I can't click away and it'd mess everything up. Are you someone that only uses that screen name, or can you go ahead and tell me what your name is? Because if you can, then I'll know if you're the person with the situation, and that would give me a little bit of context to the question. I see you're the next one that had asked a question. Your question was your thoughts on Counterman versus Colorado, subjective standard for free speech versus harassment and stalking. I actually don't know that court case off the top of my head. In fact, I was only sent the court documents. If you are the person I think you are, I was only sent your court documents yesterday, I believe. And I started looking through them, and the motion to dismiss was like, what, 45 pages long, something like that. And I got to page 6 and I just couldn't, like, my day was moving too quick. So, okay, you are not who I thought you were. So that's interesting because there is a case that I was asked to talk about with Foshin, with this is a public service. I'll have to double check with him, but I think not tomorrow, but Thursday, we're going to do a joint live, if he's still wanting to do it, where we're going to talk about a case that's happening where someone is charged with a felony for harassment and stalking, but it's a free speech issue. And he was only ever contacting a person regarding in their professional capacity as a government official, and then posted videos on YouTube, and somehow those are considered violations of a harassment or stalking no contact order type thing. So anyway, it's a brand new Supreme Court case. Okay, so I'm gonna make myself a note here. So Counterman, I'm assuming you mean U.S. Supreme Court, which is weird because usually I try to keep up to date on new decisions that are coming down, but I somehow missed that, unless it's new enough that it was during the time I was going through my surgeries. I did not keep up on all the court cases while I was in the middle of my surgeries. Okay, so anyway, I do want to talk about that, and I would invite you guys, I'm going to say it like one more time. I think maybe 11 in the morning Eastern Standard Time, that this is a public service and I might be doing a joint live on the very topic of harassment, stalking versus free speech, and especially doing First Amendment auditing and things like that, and how those types of legal lawfare, protective orders and things like that, injunctions based on so-called harassment, when it's all just issues of free speech, how all those topics intersect. That's what the topic is that we're planning to talk about. So I just have to confirm with him if that's what we're doing. So let's see. I'm just going to scroll through. So I'm not answering your question, Blue Line Transparency, only because I haven't read the case, but I made myself a note to look at that case, and free speech. In fact, I didn't even write myself a good enough note. Okay, so I will look into that case, and we'll see where that goes, whether it's just in the next show that I do the second Tuesday of April, or whether it's going to be Thursday show with Foshin, or if I do some sort of shorter videos. I don't know if you guys have seen, but I've tried to put out a few of the shorter videos, maybe 5 to 10 minutes, and I plan to try to crank out some more of those. Would probably be next week that I would end up getting those out. This week is going to be way too hard. But in the meantime, Chris Mike asked, the Second Amendment shall not be infringed, and all the states have different policies. Could you explain the disconnect between the states and the federal law, the Bill of Rights, etc.? I'm sorry. The first word that came to my mind, I was trying to hold in, but then I started laughing about it. So I'll explain that I'm laughing because the disconnect is that they're morons. They're idiots. They don't know how to read. They don't understand the Constitution. In fact, I was just reading a new Court of Appeals case from the state of Michigan, where they were talking about, in light of the Bruin case, the New York Rifle Company versus Bruin. I don't even remember if that's the right order of but you guys know what I'm talking about. That I think my child just knocked on the door, but I don't know for sure. That in light of that case, they're saying, the argument was being made that some portion of the concealed carry statute in Michigan is unconstitutional. So generally in Michigan, there's the right to open carry without even needing a permit, but to concealed carry, you need a permit and you have to follow all these other regulations, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's backwards down here in Florida. You can concealed carry, but you can't open carry. And apparently now in California, they have said, hey, you can't have a gun that has a magazine with, I forgot what they called it. I don't think they just called it large capacity. I think they called it something else, but anything that holds more than 10 rounds. Well, my goodness, my firearm holds 30 rounds in each magazine. I have 2 magazines. That's 60. It's not, machine gun by any stretch of the imagination. It's a handgun, but it's 22, it's, what is that called? I'm losing all my words. But anyway, it's small enough caliber that I'm going to do some damage, but I need to be able to have more than 6 bullets in there. Otherwise, it might not do enough damage if somebody's, coming to my home to try to hurt me or things of that nature. So at any rate, it was interesting. And if you guys haven't seen it or heard of it, there is, I want to say it was the California Court of Appeals, but it was a higher court in California. And one of the they ruled in favor of this gun ban with you can't have, the magazine that has more than 10 rounds in it. But anyway, one of the dissenting judges did a video as part of his dissent and showed dismantling the gun and putting it together and whatever. And I haven't even gotten a chance to watch the video, but I briefly got to read an article. The article wasn't that great. I read the whole article, but the article wasn't that great. And it was, I think that's phenomenal. And anyway, of course, he's getting called out and people are saying that he shouldn't have done that. And it is, the other judges on the panel were like, oh, that's totally unprofessional and it's, improper and it's, you're making yourself an expert witness and all that. It's like, no, he's just doing pictures because a picture is worth 1,000 words and you guys are imbeciles and you don't seem to understand how guns function. And that's fine if you don't want to know how guns function, but then don't be the one trying to make rules on this. So anyway, back to the question. I apologize. I get too fired up about this, which is why I laughed when I first read your question. For me to explain the disconnect between the states and the federal law. So let me even put it this way. It's not just in our U.S. Constitution in the Second Amendment. I do believe, I could be wrong, but I do believe that in every single state constitution, in the Declaration of Rights, there is a provision protecting the right to bear arms, worded in one way or another. And in most situations, it's worded very similar, if not substantially the same, to the United States Constitution, Second Amendment. So it's more than just the federal Constitution. And the disconnect is because it's not even so much the shall not be infringed. It's like they're trying to split hairs. And in that California case that I was talking about, they're saying, well, bear arms. So they're talking about the definition of bear arms. Yeah, the right to bear arms shall not be infringed. Yeah, we get that. But bearing arms, what does that mean? And arms does not include magazines, guns with magazines that have a capacity of over 10 rounds. What? Why? Where did that come from? So at any rate, it is just, it's lack of knowledge. It's lack of understanding of the Constitution and the basics, and really what it boils down to in all of these situations, whether we're talking about a group home, with somebody trying to put in a group home for developmentally disabled people and they're going to the Zoning Board of Appeals, or whether we're talking about the right of locomotion, or whether we're talking about, Second Amendment issues, whether in any state across the U.S., what it boils down to, the disconnect, is that by and large, judges and all government officials are of the mindset the government does what it wants to. It could do whatever it wants to, unless there's a specific provision that says it can't. But Even if there's a constitutional provision that says the government can't do something, that's not really always black and white. And, Congress or state legislatures, they're allowed to, make carve outs and exceptions and wear that particular, prohibition down to be very, very minute. And whereas the people get their rights from government. And they have to make sure that anything that they do, that they have permission from the government to act. That's the mindset. That is the disconnect. They need to understand it's the other way around. The government cannot do anything unless they have specific authority granted to them by the Constitution. And the people have inherent rights and authorities to act, especially in their own lives. Our rights are given to us by God, not the government. And that's why we have something like in the U.S. Constitution, the Ninth Amendment. Okay, that's why we have the ability to protect all of our unenumerated rights. I forget. I think it might be Article 1, Section 9 of the Michigan State Constitution. I can't even remember. I should have that. I used to have it memorized. It's also in the Florida State Constitution. That one, the unenumerated rights, is also in most state constitutions as well. It's just they just don't understand what that means. But we retained all the rights that we didn't specifically put in there. We put those ones in there because at the time those constitutions were written, there had been specific issues with those rights. But all the rest of the rights are just like, duh, like goodness. At the time that the Constitution was written, the other rights were just like, yeah, we're taking that for granted. Why do I have to put in there that I have the right to breathe fresh air without a mask? I don't have to put that in. Oh my goodness, apparently we should think of every possible conceivable way that the government can go wrong because they think they have the right to do it unless the Constitution expressly spells out that they can't. So anyway, long answer. That is the answer to your question about the disconnect between the states and federal law. I thought I had seen some other questions and I really do need to go. Okay, so Troy asks, is there a standard form at the federal level for listing my interrogatories to the opposing party for a civil case? Or can I draw one up from scratch using Rule 33 as a guideline? Okay, I'm going to be honest here. I have not looked into the federal civil rules of procedure in a while. I did all kinds of videos. In fact, I would say reference all the videos that I've done on the federal rules of civil procedure. And I've touched on that probably in season 1, maybe into season 2. But you can go to my website and do a search in the search bar for things like that. And I talk about court rules. Just search court rules and you'll be able to see a whole bunch pop up. But as far as in practice, I haven't served interrogatories in quite a while. And I don't like to reinvent the wheel when it's not needed. So I just don't remember. I think the answer is yes. Hold on. Good afternoon. This is Catherine. How can I help you? Hello?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Catherine?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you still on live?
I am on live. Yes.
It's your favorite Liberty Warrior.
Oh, okay.
Thanks. I sent you a text with a link. I don't know if you've seen this yet.
No.
And I also put the link to this interview in the chat.
Okay.
Everybody needs to watch this. It's about 55 minutes long. It's about an 11-year-old kid that got set up by a bunch of bullies.
In Volusia County?
Supposedly, yeah, here in Volusia County by our sheriff.
And I already shared that video. I shared that video on a lot of my social media a couple days ago as well when Mark sent it over.
Yeah, that's got to be talked about.
Well, not today. Not in this show and not today because I got to get off this live.
Well, I have the body cam video that absolutely 100% proves that they knew before they ever arrested and perp walked this kid that the kid did nothing wrong and that our sheriff used it as a political stunt during an election year.
Well, you and I should definitely talk about that because maybe we can make do a video solely about that as well.
Yeah, I mean, this is something we got to get out there, and people have just got to start ostracizing him as a monster. That's what he is. And
So to be
everybody
clear,
in
it's Mike
Volusia has got to
Chitwood is
start
our.
auction.
So those of you who don't know who's calling in, he's a fellow freedom fighter from Volusia County, Florida here, and he's talking about Mike Chitwood, our sheriff here, who is not constitutional, not even by any stretch of the imagination, and literally is a legal bully. So at any rate, to give you context, Google Mike Chitwood, and you'll be able to see, I'm sure, a whole boatload of stories. He loves the limelight too. He loves parading around for cameras and having, you know, all kinds of, yeah, he's the captain of the Mean Kids team, basically. But what he's talking about, what Liberty Warrior is talking about, is a specific incident that happened fairly recently where a child the same age as my youngest daughter, 11 years old, was abused by the system. Oh, and it looks like my special guest is here because my dog is barking and he doesn't do that. So I really do have to go. But thank you, Liberty Warrior, for letting people know that and for directing people to the chat for the links that you were talking about. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I cannot recommend enough. Please, people, take the time. It's a long interview. It's about 55 minutes. It is worth it. And get on board. We need every voice out there shouting this monster down.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you.
Take care, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Sounds great. All right. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, guys. So I'm going to have to wrap this up because my special guest is here in my home today and I need to have that time with her. So at any rate, I did try my best to scroll through and catch all of your questions. There must have been other questions throughout today, but from what I could see, I answered every one of them that I saw. So with that being said, I'm going to do my best here to throw the links. Where'd they go? Links. There we go. On the screen here are the links, but the main thing is go to the website. If you Google Restore Freedom from your phone, no matter what kind of phone you have or at your computer or whatever, just Google Restore Freedom. The first 10 or 11 contacts are going to be me. It's going to be my website. It's going to be my Twitter account. It's going to be my LinkedIn. It's going to be my Facebook. You're going to reach me in a variety of ways, and all of them have links back to the website, which is restorefreedomkh, as in CatherineHenry.com. Don't forget that. I would have rather have had just restorefreedom.com, but it was taken. So restorefreedomkh.com it is. So restorefreedomkh.com/donate if you want to support my mission in any way, shape, or form. Restorefreedomkh.com/OB case. I have totally redone that page. That's all about the Ormond Beach case that we have currently pending in the Court of Appeals and in the Circuit Court right now, simultaneously. So please check out the documents there for the latest and greatest and be able to use them for any of your own cases. There's a lot of different constitutional issues I've raised in there. RestoreFreedomKH.com/resources, just for the general list of resources and things we have. And I'm going to constantly try to get more up there, but it is just me now. My whole tech team is off doing other projects with other things and had life going in different directions. So it is just me for the tech team, and I'm doing my best. So with that being said, I want to invite you to join us the second Tuesday noon Eastern Standard Time for our next live call-in show, and maybe, sort of, kind of, we're thinking this Thursday, a joint live at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time between me and This Is a Public Service. And we're going to be talking about some of the very issues brought up by some of our guests and joiners in the live chat today. So make sure to be on the lookout for that. I'll try to post a little something, but if you're not already a subscriber to This Is a Public Service on YouTube, go ahead and find his channel now. And hopefully we'll do a joint live about some of those important issues this Thursday. Also, if you are in the state of Florida, join us for our legislative day at the Capitol tomorrow. We're going to be catching buses as early as 5 a.m. depending on where you're from. Tickets are $35 to be able to get on the bus. But we are heading to, or you could just drive yourself there. But we are going as a group. There's a whole different thing. There's everything listed on a recent post that I made on both my Facebook personal page and my Facebook Restore Freedom with Catherine Henry page. I think I might have put it on other social media platforms as well, but make sure to check out that opportunity if you are in the state of Florida, because health freedom is important. And don't forget those important Second Amendment bills that are currently pending in the Florida state legislature. There's some House bills and Senate bills, the companion bills. Last I heard that they made progress within the last week and they were moving on to the next stage of things. So anyway, keep informed on all those issues. And if you're not in the state of Florida, then make sure you know what your own state legislature is doing right now on a variety of issues, because it is your freedom at stake. So again, this has been great to have you guys all here today. I'm constitutional attorney Catherine Henry, and I appreciate all of you guys joining us today, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Our work to restore freedom would not be possible without support from people just like you. From the various software and hardware needed to the legal research materials, every dollar you can donate helps. Make sure to like and share this video too. And remember to follow and subscribe and click that notification button. Together, we can restore freedom.